scroll away. Democratic headquarters urgently needs you to sign this petition.
Hello, hello, hello. It's another Thursday night, right? Okay, so hello everybody. This is our BeckerArt paint-alongs on every Thursday night. And I have a couple of new people I think are going to be on tonight. They were telling me that they heard about them, and so thanks a lot for everybody for spreading the news too about the paint-alongs. They're a lot of fun, and you can always do it afterwards, not right tonight. You can always do it afterwards. It's oh no. Thursday night, right? Okay. Let's cut that out right from the get-go. Sorry about that. Let me just tell you about my next workshops. I got another workshop coming up in about a couple weeks. It's going to be in Clayton, New York, in the Thousand Islands area, and that's for in the Clayton Island. I forget what the name, Thousand Islands Art Guild or something like that. But look at my website and you can see all that stuff. But I have surprise news for all the people that live in Syracuse and in Buffalo, New York. I'm going to be on the way back after that workshop. I'm going to be at the art store in Syracuse on the 13th. And I'm going to be doing a demonstration there. I'm not sure what it's going to be, if it's going to be on black paper, but I'll be at the art store. I think it's called the Art Store in Syracuse, New York. That's on the 13th, Friday the 13th. Oh, great. That's going to be great. And then on August 14th, the next day, I'll be in Buffalo at the Hyatt Art Store doing a demonstration there. So after my workshops, I got two things going on. So if you're in that area, just stop by those art stores and I'll be doing demonstrations and stuff. Anyways, let's get to our beer today. So I got scolded last week for drinking out of the can. And so this week we're going to pour it into a glass. And so actually that's the way you should be drinking beers anyways. So I'm just going to pour this. Today we got a Heckershore and a good old German beer. I think I've had this before, but I'm going to test. This is the Weiss beer. So here it is. There's the Weiss beer. And so we're going to try this for a minute. Oh, look at the head on it. How am I going to drink that now? So we'll let that go down a little bit. So I have to learn how to pour this fast, right? So I'm going to cheers you in a second. But let me just go on here to let everybody know that's on here to go to my website. If you want any kind of news of where I'm going to be, I didn't put it on yet. I just heard today that I'm going to be doing these things in Syracuse and in Buffalo, New York on the 13th and the 14th. But go on here to my website and pick up the picture here, all that kind of good stuff. And for my supplies, you remember my supplies, all the newcomers that are here tonight, this is where you have the supplies. I just put up here for a second so you can look at it and you can stop. Again, you can stop the video at any time if you're painting along. You won't be live then afterwards, but you'll have a good shot to not working as fast as I can. So, and let's see who's all here today. And let me find a value study here, but today we got, who's all here? We got Barbara, Pamela, Sue, Phil. Hey Phil, hey Sue, hey Pamela, Barbara, Barbie, Linda, Maria, Ann, Brenna, and who else? Melody. All right, thanks guys. Millie. Hey Millie. Thanks for coming to a lot of my workshops. I met a bunch of you in my workshop, and that's so cool, is when you're coming to the workshop and I meet you live. It's great seeing you here, but I love to see you live. And so if you can make one of my workshops or my demos, come on by. Anyways, so here today we're going to be doing this still life, and still lifes are so good for you. If you ever, that's what we have to do in an art class. In the very first year, we do one. Every class that we have, we always had to do a still life, and they're very good when you kind of set up the whole still life, take pictures of them, or just sketch them up live, and it's just a really good thing to do. And so tonight we're going to be doing that. And thanks for the suggestions, everybody, for giving me that suggestion to do a still life. A couple of you wanted that, and so again, I always take the suggestions on what you guys want to learn. So tonight this is the one I did this afternoon, this one up here. I probably should have made this button red because you can't see it. And so we did this one right here. And then so we're going to be going and doing this. And so you see there's lace back here. And there's a couple of things I'm going to be doing different. Like this lace I put out here was done with a stencil and an airbrush. And so we're going to put that into the mix tonight. But I'm not going to make it like this because this does not look like a piece of cloth that's hanging on a curtain. It looks more like a sheer, wall, like wallpaper. So that didn't work out as good as I wanted it to. So we're going to be doing that a little bit differently today and this evening. And the lights it's a little bit different from doing light to dark because we don't do back to front like a landscape. because of all these darks back here. And so we're going to be going lights first here, then we'll do all the lights. We're going to use our colors. And let me just get back to, let me take you to the tabletop and I'll show you what I did this afternoon. So here we have what we did this afternoon. Actually, but first, cheers. If I finally came down so I can drink it. Cheers, everybody. Cheers this week. Out of a glass. Thank you for mentioning that. One of you people on the Thursday nights mentioned that I should be drinking out of a glass, and that's actually right. Because last week we had what was it, the Irish beer, the Guinness beer, and I should be drinking out of a glass. All right, so I love the colors of the lace, makes it more interesting. Thanks, Brenna. So I'm gonna do the lace like this, but I'm gonna put folds into it because I think that it didn't work out quite as I liked it. And the picture, I'm gonna give a little bit of design on there because that seems kind of like a picture. And we decided that this was a cookie jar, even though it is like a tea kettle or tea. Hot water for tea. And I was going to put smoke in here, or not smoke, but the mist coming out of the hot coffee. So there's no coffee in there. So we maybe do that or maybe not, because I think I kind of like this up here too. So we'll see as we go along. Anyways, let's go and let's get going here. So we're going to, as you can see, I used a lot of warm colors and I didn't use many cool colors. I just kind of kept it on one side of the wheel, more warms, and I did have more of a red and brown, that's what I was kind of using, all the warm siennas and red for the tomatoes. So I didn't go across the board to use its complement, which you don't always have to do. So this one we're just going to do probably the same way. And since I am using red for the tomatoes, and since that's my center of interest, I'm going to probably stick with those kind of colors and just see how it goes from there. Anyways, let's get going. Oh, by the way, this is definitely about a 10 or 11 beer. It's very good, Hecker Weiss. Oh, very good. So smooth. That's definitely about 11. 11 is the top of the line, so that was a good one. So anyways, we're going to go here now and start it up with we're going to start out with the cloth here, the little doily looking curtain that's there. And so I'm going to put it in warm. I started out with a lavender, but I'm going to kind of wet it as I go along. I don't want any hard edges in there, except maybe one or two that I didn't get the first time. And I'm going right through the bread because I'm not doing any darks right now. I'm coloring. I'm putting all the lights on top and just giving it a good color. Did I miss anything? But no, I did the Valley Pen. Going fast today. I know I have a lot of stuff in here, and so I want to do the airbrush. I want to do the stencils. So we got a lot to cover here. So I'm going to paint and wetting as I go along. So I'm not going to be wetting it first with just water. So that when I do that, what I kind of do is I kind of go in and take colors that are my lights and I kind of figure out what I'm going to use for the colors. And now what I want to do is do this right away. In class, I waited for the darks in here until after, but since I'm doing this in an hour, I'm going to take this and just start putting the darks in right away. Because I wanted a hard edge here. That's usually what I would get. But now as you see, it's running into the bread. And I should have probably not wet that. And so we'll go in here. Because what I want to do is I want to stencil here, airbrush here. Because it's going to be darker on top and lighter on the bottom here. So we're just going to go in there. And again, if you have anybody who's new here and wants to ask a question, just put it in the chat. I look up every once in a while to see what you guys are talking about. And I will hopefully try to answer those questions. So let's get a little bit thicker paint. So when you want the paint not to run, what do? You add more pigment to that. And so I'm just going to go in here and add like a little bit of violet. And I can go in this area because that's going to be darker anyways. Now it is going to bleed a little bit here. And we're just going to try to I'm going to do a little bit more folds in this one than on this one. The one I have over there, this one I did this afternoon, see there's no folds in the material, so it looks like almost a wall. If I didn't have a little angle on it, it would look like a wall with wallpaper. So we're just doing that a little bit differently. I always do one, and I have a class on Thursday afternoon, and so I always have a chance to try it. And if if you like to do 2 or 3, that's not a bad thing to do. I mean, a lot of people don't like doing it more than once. But sometimes it's it's practice. It's a practice painting anyway. So the more you do it, the more you'll learn. It's just one of those things that if you do it and you do it wrong, that's when you actually learn. So, I mean, stuff like that, I learned the first time. If I wouldn't have done a mistake, then I wouldn't have known that, you know. So it's good to make mistakes. Don't ever think it's bad that you do something wrong in your painting. That's actually the best thing that could happen, because then you're learning what to do and not to do next time. And maybe colors that didn't work out together, you know, you're thinking, oh, this is going to be a great color, and they didn't work out. That's great. Then you know never to use those same colors again. So here I'm just putting in those nice colors, and I'm going with a little bit more purple on this one, a little bit more color. I felt like that was kind of very limited in color, so why not try a few other colors? And I always try to make it different anyways. And here we have the knife, and you can see this cup in the actual photo that the person took on Pixel Bay. They didn't have a cup in there. I actually put that in, and a couple of the students took out the bread, took out that, and that's fine. If you want to take something out, that's fine. Just go ahead and take it out. I'm not going to mind. I just felt like it needed something in this corner. It just felt really bare and stuff, and so now I'm going to go in here and do the lights in the. Looking forward to the colors here. See if you can make the color light. So again, I'm doing it light first because I'm gonna kind of just get the main light colors of the bread here and stuff, and I'm not gonna do the tomatoes right away, because if I do it while things are wet, then it's a little bit harder to do these things. And so we're getting the big areas done and getting a little bit of a wash on them. And I actually could do some of this with the, hold on, let me get this out of the way so I can see the image. So I am going to put a little bit of red into this little pot here. We determined that was a cookie jar. In class we made it a cookie jar. We can't quite tell what it is that's right there. Again, this is the lights. I didn't put the darks in yet because I'm just adding the lights so that I can go around these lights. And later on those will be the lights, but colorful lights. And so there's a little bit of color right here in this pot. I can even possibly do it with right away if I can keep a hard edge on some of the things. I actually could do the dark right now, but then I'm gonna get a soft edge, which maybe is not a bad thing. So, you know, there's so many different ways of doing your painting. So a lot of times it determines on how you feel, because there's not one single way to do a painting. And many times there's many different ways. You can do it piece by piece, but you have to make sure then that you get things to the colors that would match and stuff like that. So I find it to be harder when you're doing piece by piece. I'm going to do this whole background in one piece. It's all darks, and so they're all going to be together. You can see that in here. See how I took the wash through everything and left little spaces here and there for leaving it alone where the light is hitting the rim. So that's going to be something I'll do on this one too. But I'm just going to kind of get some of the darks a little bit faster than I got them there, because there I waited for that first wash that I'm doing right now to dry. And so I don't have that time here in the video, so I will go right into the darks right away. But you can wait for you can do this first wash, get your light colors, the colors that are going to be underneath. You can get those first, and then come back and try to get your really dark colors afterwards, and then get hard edge. See, now if I go into this, I can't get any hard edges like around the vase or the picture. I mean, if I go now, it's going to be a soft edge. So that's the only reason I kind of would like to go after it's dry. But we don't have that time, so we're just going to do it, and we're going to get some soft edges here. All right, so that's pretty much my lights in the cup. This time I'm going to make it a little bit warmer, a little bit more red, because it's going to reflect these tomatoes that are right there, right? So we're going to just put these in there right there. Put a little light right there. Again, if you got questions, please ask them now. It's a lot easier for me to answer when, let's see. All right, no questions yet, but thanks everybody for showing up. Hey Lynn, hey Brenda. Jill, thanks. And again, thanks for everybody for giving me suggestions, and also for recommending my paint-alongs to friends. I got a lot of emails from a couple of people that said that some of their friends would be coming in tonight, and so that's great. I love to have more people, and you learn as much as you can. So since this is the part that's dry, I'm gonna go right in here, and normally I did this later, but since I'm waiting for this part to dry, I'm gonna go right into the tomatoes. And I'm not going to worry about the stem that's coming out. I'm just going to leave that alone, and I will do that darker anyways and put some highlights on there. So I'm kind of going in, and the tomatoes are reflected on the top, it looks like. And so I wet it with the Scarlet Lake. I'm using the red Scarlet Lake. It's a really super bright red, and I just put that in there first. I get enough pigment, and I'm kind of using it as like wetting agent. So I have the water, but I have red, so I know where I'm going with the color, and then I'll be going in there and shaping it. And I can even take it right down into the floor here. The table. This is definitely not on the floor. So we're going right into the table. Cheers, everybody. Hecker short, number 11. Oh, that's good. That's a very good one. So we're going to take a little purple here, a little bit of red, and we're going to go and do the dark parts of the tomatoes right away. And you can see the light is coming from this direction in the painting, and so I'm going to take it on the opposite side, put that in there, and just let that bleed in on its own because I'm floating my pigment. Remember, float your pigment. Use enough pigment in there too, because then it won't bleed too far if you put a lot of pigment. I can make it stop right there if I just use a lot of paint. There's no water in my brush right now. I kind of take it out like this. So I'm dipping into pure pigment. And then I'm gonna, and the tomato already is wet, so it's just gonna get a soft edge automatically. And I can help it along by putting a little water there and scooting it along too. You can help it out a little bit if it's not blending as fast as you want it to. You can just put a little water in there, just take a little bit, tape it down here, or put it down. And then I'm going to do this little darks in the center there. And it doesn't have to, be perfect right now. We can wait, and we can go back in, and I can scrub out a little bit. I'm going to try to put many other colors that maybe like that purple up there. I can put that on there. I can put on this top here a little bit. Now this one back here looks like it's really bright red here, and so I'm just going to try to make that really bright red. Again, for all you newcomers, I use a towel on my table, and that way I can go anywhere. I don't need to have a paper towel in my hand at all times. I just dab down on a paper towel. I have found that to be the most amazing thing I've ever invented. I'm not sure why I never did that before, because it's like anywhere I'm painting, I'm right in front of you. It's not on camera, but if you look, all this is like all messy because I'm using the towel. And I bleach them, and they come out perfectly white again. They may have a few little stains in it, but I'm not using it to, dry off after a bath. And so these are my ones. I go to Goodwill, get them, and they're used just for my painting. All right, so then I get some darks in here. Would you also make the picture and cup lighter since the background is so dark? You could, and when I up the light on this, you can make them a little bit lighter, but don't change them and do them piece by piece. Still, when I paint these, you can just make it lighter while you're going through there, and you just make that part lighter. And I actually will probably make it, because I noticed in this one, the one I did this afternoon, I didn't leave some of the background even light, and so I may do that too. So yes, you can make it, as it comes forward, you can make it lighter and brighter with color. It's always good to make something brighter in color also when you come forward. So I'm doing the dark side of this tomato. Again, the light, you have to know where your light's coming from, your light source, and my light source is coming this direction, and so that's how I'm painting it. Everything I think about is about that light being from that point, that vantage point. Like this cup will be dark on that side. So that's pretty much the tomatoes. And if I want them redder, then I can, this one I got a little bit too much purple in, so what I'll do is I'll rub this out a little bit. See how I just rub it out with my brush? It's still wet, and so I'm taking some of the pigment out. And then I'm going to put a little bit more red right there. It's still wet. I rubbed it out, and now it's a little bit brighter. See, it's a little bit brighter. And I'm just going to leave a little highlight there, not as much as I thought I should need. And here, same thing. This guy a little bit dark with the purple. I used too much purple there, so I'm rubbing it out. I take it and put it on my table here, and I take it out, and then I add pure red right into that mix. Because that red is super, super bright. But if I mix it with purple and it bleeds into it, of course it's going to be duller. So here we're just going to rub that in there. And I really don't have to do much there because it still is wet, and it'll it'll come in on its own. All right, so let's go right into our darks now, because now we have all the lights, and we're going right into the darks. Do you soak your towels first and then put them in the bleach? Yeah, what I do is I kind of just wash them out. Actually, I put them in on the outside, and I take a hose and I just hose them. I just swoosh them around, and then I put them into the washer. They're wet when I put them into the washer. But I just bleach them. I just put bleach in there and soap. Yeah, let's see. So now we're gonna go in here and get our darks, right? And so I don't care what color you use at first. So when you're going in here, I just pick up any color, and I'm kind of going in the back, and then I get the hard edges that I was looking for. But now this is very just simple one color, right? It's like a violet-y color. That's not the color I want. It's just the color that I'm starting with to see what I can do there. Now I'm going to go in and look and think, okay, now I'm going to get some of that red in there. I'm going to put some of the purple in there, maybe some blue, just to tone it down a little bit, maybe a little darker. And I let the pigment float and do its own thing. I kind of go in there and get the hard edge if I need a hard edge. If I need it to be soft, I could soften this edge, but I'm going to leave it dark or hard for now, and then maybe later I can soften it when I put a spray on that, which I actually did with the airbrush on that one. So here again, I'm getting the edges hard, and I know I said that I should be going into that area, which I will, but I'm going to leave a little space available, so it will bleed in there. But I'm going to first do it hard, and then as I'm working along, I'm going to let it bleed into each other, into the picture also. So I'm getting the picture, because some spots I do want it to look like it's right there. And also there's a basket back here with some fruit in it also, maybe some more tomatoes. And so now is when I get those colors in there, I'm just going to kind of fake that in there. See, I'm just going to kind of put that in there as like an after. And it's all soft edge, so it's not very tight. It's not like photographic. It's actually blurry. And that's what I want. That's why I do it things wet in the wet, because I don't want a tight, hard edge everything. So now I'm going to go on this side. And then right away, I'm just going to try to get this part done here. And here I have a little bit of light that's going to be in there. So I'm taking a brush. And I'm just going to go in here and see, I'm still going around the picture, but you'll see in a second, I'm going to take the same colors right into the picture. I want that to look like it's the same kind of wash, like it was one wash all together. You know, the best paintings are the ones that look like it took one brush stroke and it just got done so easily. Even though it's not that easy, but those are the best looking ones, the ones that just come together with big washes, huge washes, where you let the paint do its own thing. I'm going around this little top of this, whatever we decided to be, tea kettle, and then we go around this for a second. And actually now I'm going to go right into here. I'm just going to let this bleed right in. I'm going to open the door and just let it come right in, so it doesn't. I like when things look like they belong together, and your eye will let it look like it's a different. The picture is still going to look like a picture, and the background will still be the background. But if I can get some of this to kind of blend in, and it's not so important that it is all so hard edged up there. We'll get the pot on the side here. And I'll go back in there later with a darker color to actually identify the shape of things too. Right now I'm just getting the dark of that pot, and I'm going to try to give it a little bit more lighter color on this side. And you see how I go really close to the edge? And it's a little bit lighter, and actually it's not going to be a problem because I let that part, it's almost dry right there. So I'm going to leave this wet now. I'll put this little arm in there too. It's all together, and then I can blend this and mold this piece of pottery to what I want it to be. And I want it to look like that. I want it to look very, floaty. Is that a word, floaty? Very floaty kind of look to it, where the pigment floats and you get that nice granulation happening. Now the red here dulled down a lot because I put purple in there, but I actually kind of like that purple there. Nothing wrong with purple. So we're going to put a little bit of red like it's reflecting into the pottery. Put it close here and just let it bleed in. That's okay if it bleeds in. You don't have to have edges on everything. You know, your eye has a place to rest then. You have some soft edges. Some of the best paintings I've ever seen has been where they paint through and let things paint through each other. A lot of people, what they do is they see the picture and they think, okay, I gotta paint a pot, I gotta paint a cup, I gotta paint this thing that's back here, I gotta do this and that. And you don't think of it as one whole painting. You think of it as items, all these items. But I see it as all the same wash because it's just a dark wash. And so that's what I do. See here, I went right into here now and I'm going right on the edge of this. And just get the nice edge. And I do separate the items, but I try to make the wash look like it's going from one to the other. And just kind of keeps it going, keeps it kind of steady. It's the same kind of look. I put all kinds of different colors in there too. I don't even know what color this pot is. It's dark. And so it's reflecting the colors that are around it. It is a glass object or a ceramic object, so it can reflect, and it's probably, you know, reddish or, you know, brown or orange and terracotta like, but it doesn't have to be just one color. You know me, how I love to add. So let's put a little bit of lavender in there, a little dark. I even put black in there to make it really dark on this side. I'll take this side and I'm going to go right into the top of the cup. This is what helps you as an artist, these still lifes, so much when it comes to your landscapes then later on. Because the landscapes are done like this, where you go from back to front and you try to do the biggest parts of the painting. And the biggest parts are usually objects or areas in a still life, or I mean in the outside scene, a landscape. But here, it's not a landscape. There's not much distance, so you kind of have to make everything look like it's the same area, the same thing. And so you look for the big areas of light and dark. And I always do that anyways. I mean, that's something you have to do. I've been telling you guys a long time. You've got to go work for the big areas of light and dark. And so see how I just put this all together as one big wash right there. I didn't stop. I did have a couple of spots where I went along and here, and I'll put the handle in here a little bit darker. And now here we got the shadow coming off of this cup also. You can always do detail later. Detail has to be left for later. You can't do all the detail right from the get-go because then you get none of these soft edges or washes. The washes are just so wonderful when you can get them floating like this. And the only way to get them floating is doing them big. And so that's why I try to do them big. And why I do paint things together like this. I can still go in here and I can even do a little, let's say there's a little texture in that picture. I can do that. It's still wet. I'll make this side a little bit darker because the sun's this way. And so I did do like you guys just asked in the beginning, if I can keep this lighter. Are you using different brushes? No, I'm using my brushes. I'm not sure if you weren't here last week. I talked about I dipped them. I dipped them into that Dip It. It's a plastic that I put on there. It's a grip now. And I love it. I actually will do that to all my brushes from now on. I'm going to put the Dip It on there and it grips. It's like a nice rubbery grip. And now we're going to go down here. Just put this on there, the darks. And so we're getting the darks in there right away. See how we're just getting this all done right away. This I'm going to do with a smaller brush, the handle of the coffee mug or tea mug. Or now we got the dark here. Now we'll go right to the bread. See how I got that all together, and now this side we can do the same thing. And I can actually, I'm going to show you what up in this area. Now let's just do the bread by itself for now. So I'm wetting the bread. And I'm going to put a hard edge line maybe here. It goes around this part where they cut into the bread. So there's water on it right now, right? So now I can pick up pure pigment. And what color is bread? I don't know. It's honey, kind of golden bread with browns and stuff. And so, you know, dip into your yellow and your orange, make a gold or quinacridone gold. And then I have enough pigment in my brush. I can come right up here to where it's cut. And go right around that because the color of the bread is already there. I did that in the very first wash when we got the the color of the bread, or the inside of the bread, I should say. If you want a soft edge there, we can do that. And then I'm going to get some really darks there too, so I'm just going to take some purple. If you don't have a brown, make purple with orange and purple. Orange and a dark purple, you can make a nice brown. I don't really have a brown on my palette except for a Middlestone brown, which is actually more of a purple brown. But if you want a brown, you can just mix it with orange and purple. Now I'm going to use a smaller brush and get in there. A small round. And I'm just going to do the side of the bread real quick. And later on I will do little dots in here to make it look more textured, this bread, because this bread is not, nobody shaved it or anything, made it really soft. So we'll do a little texture like this, little dabs of nervousness, right? I'm so nervous here. I'm shaking. See how much I'm shaking? So we're going like that. I'm gonna go in here. Another one. Here's the side of the bread. Maybe a little gold. Now there's green in that gold. So put a little yellow, green, orange. Make it kind of a golden crust of the bread. Can come in here. This is the edge of the bread. Maybe do that. Now it looks like a meatloaf or something. Okay, we're gonna have to do some inside here. And actually, it ran into that area. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just rub this a little bit. And at the same time, get a little texture in here. A little texture on the inside of the bread, so it doesn't look like meatloaf. And so I'll see like that. Hey Lynn. Hey Jill. Okay, now the board here. We're gonna go right into the board, or the wooden board that the bread is on. Just put that in there right now. And so I'm just putting a brown, and you know, a lot of times look at your palette, see what you got on your palette. There's a brown that's happened to be there, so why mix anything? If you have something on that, just use it. Because a lot of times that's what happens when you're using your board. What's happening is you're making all kinds of colors that you don't even know you're making. So check out your palette once in a while and see what's there. Here we go to the bottom of this. Make a nice little dark shadow there. And anytime I use a color and now it's wet, I always float other colors in there because it's just not one color. Nothing is one color. Unless you're doing a one color study. It's all one color, right? So here we go. We're going to do the knife and the side of the knife. Let's make this red because I have all this red over here. I have no dark red over here. So of course the handle of this knife will be red. We'll just make it like it's reflecting. It's so shiny, it's reflecting that tomato right there. And you can just do it because you're the artist. Even if it wasn't a red handle, you can do it because it makes the paint look better. And I'm going to take a really dark black and purple, and I'm just going to make a line right down here, like a shadow, underneath this red handle, because I can make a little bit darker shadow. And then I'm going to wet this bottom part because I want to throw some shadowing across here. And I'm going to keep some of it white, but I want to have a soft edge here. So I'm just going to go across this, and I'm going to go right underneath the tomatoes and kind of wet this, and so that I can make this really pop. I want this shadow to be soft edge, so I'm going to do that. I'm just going to put something down here. Underneath the tomatoes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and do a little dark, it's more of a reflection than it is a shadow, because sometimes the shadow is not really crisp. So what happens is then it's not a crisp shadow, it's like a reflection into the wood. Maybe the wood is a little shiny, so I'm going to keep it a soft edge. I'll make it still go across, and then I'm just going to take my brush across it real quick, lighten it a little bit, and see now I got a nice shadow underneath there and a reflection. So a little bit of both, and then just maybe hit it a little bit harder right there with a dark. All right, and so I will put this part in here darker. I'm just going to take our smaller brush because this is still the wood board right here. Goes underneath here, goes over here, and I know I am painting a little bit tighter than I normally paint, but I mean you do have to make the things look like what they are, just like in a portrait. And we're going to probably be doing a portrait coming up in a couple weeks. So I gotta realize that I may not be able to do on a one Thursday when I have the workshop. I'm not sure if they have Wi-Fi there and where I'll be heading to. So we'll see about that, and just always check out my newsletter to see what's happening with my paint alongs, and if I'm away at a workshop, a lot of times I may not be able to do it, or I'll do it outside. I'll do like a plein air thing. And so just always check out my website, and you always find out what's happening. I'm kind of excited about doing these little demos at the art stores. So check those out. I don't have them online yet because I just found out. So you guys are the first to know about that. And so I know I have a few people that are from the central New York area, and so Syracuse and Buffalo, I'll be there the 13th and the 14th, I think it is. Go in here, get a little bit of this. How much time we have here? Oh, we got plenty of time. Oh my gosh, we're almost done. So here we go. We're gonna go in here, put a little shadow on this. Now let's do the little details, because that's pretty much my big lights and darks. Let me do this area here real quickly, because as you can see, this is really light. It really turned out light, a lot lighter than I had anticipated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-wet this whole thing. You know, and if you have clean water, that's fine. You just take it and put clean water over everything. It'll be fine, though my water's not that clean, but it'll be clean enough. I'm just going to go over this and just kind of get a few more. I'm going to tone this down a little bit. This is a little bit bright here, and I can also do it with the airbrush later, but I just want to show you how you can just do it if you don't have an airbrush. I'm going up here, re-wetting it. You can also use your spray bottle. I don't see my spray bottle at the moment, but you can also do that by re-wetting it. And then I'm going to take this part, make it a little bit darker, because in the photograph you see, or in the photograph right there, you see it's a little bit darker right here. So we're going to take a little bit of this dark, just put it in there. It'll go around this top of the board here. And since it's wet, it will not be a hard edge, right? That's how come I don't want hard edges at places. And also, it'll be great when I put in the stencil. I'll put this up here like that. Oh, another cheers, guys. Cheers. That's a number 11, definitely. All right, so let's go inside here real quickly. I'm gonna, oh wait, I was looking to wet this area. I don't want a hard edge there. I'm gonna go around the top of that with a dark. Because when I put the stencil in, you're gonna see it's gonna be lit up again, and so it's always fun to. So now the curtain will look more like a curtain because I have folds in it, and so it's like a little bit softer and not as hard a line right there. So I think this look much better than the last one did. All right, a few more dots here in the bread, so that it doesn't look so perfect. Dots again. Nervous? If you're nervous or have the shakes, this is a good time for you. Just put it in there with your bread. It's good for having shakes when you're making bread. Now let's get our cup inside here. I'm gonna put the coffee up to about here. And I would put the, if I were to put the steam coming off the cup, you can do that, but then normally I would do that in the beginning while this is wet. I would put that in there. I guess I could rub it out, but there's so much stuff going on in this painting. I don't think it needs to have steam. It gets to a point where you have too much going on, and so I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to leave it what it is. It's up to you. You can do whatever you'd like. There we have some coffee. And I want to do the edge of that a little bit lighter. So I'll have to go back in there and get that also. This handle looks like it's a little bit too bright, and so let's tone it down a little bit. Oh, I didn't have any questions. No questions. Come on, guys. Questions. Go in here. Make the inside. And over here, we're going to tone that down a little bit because it's not that important that looks, because it's kind of confusing. But what I'm going to do is see that really dark right there. I'm going to take it, when this is dry, I'm going to go back in here and just do a touch of dark right there to get the shape of that a little bit back. And also right here, I'll put a little dark. So you can always get the shape afterwards also. You don't have to get the shape right when you're doing the soft edges or the background. You always come in later. And it'll be just as good. Now, hopefully that'll dry before the end of this video. Let's see how many. Oh, we still got 20 minutes. I have plenty of time. And it's again very hot in here, so I'm sweating up a storm. I don't put on the air conditioner because it's too loud for you guys. And but it's been really, in Illinois here, it's been super, super hot lately. So now I'm going to rub out here a little bit. While this is drying, I'm going to rub out a little bit there so I can, let's see, I have a paper towel here. I will rub out a little bit to get a little highlight on the edge of this. There we go. And then since there is a little bit of a texture on here, I'm going to make a little bit of, because it is like there's a little dark line right here on the photograph you can see. I'm just going to make that in there and just pull it up. Alright, and so then we go right into the, now should I do the background darker than that, or should I make it the bottle darker? Let me think, let's let that dry first and I'll make a decision. So one or the other, either make something lighter or darker depending on what's the background and how you can make it pop forward. Like here, now I'm going to put it in again. So you don't have to get everything right away. Yeah, so it's like there's time sometimes to do, just wait and let it dry and then pick it up again later. Now let's get into our stems here of the, I'm going to do a really dark bluish green for the stem, and so I'm just going to kind of bring in the stem right here. And I know it's it doesn't look very stem-like because right now it's just a dark line, but I will put other colors in there once it's, I don't care how small something is, I can go back in and put in another little bit of light on top of a dark. As long as it floats, you can do that. So I'll put a little yellow, touches of yellow in there. I like to get the dark first, and then I'll use a dark blue and connect gold. That makes my really dark green. And so, and most of the leaves here on this plant are really pretty dark green when you're doing these little. There we go. Same thing here. Just put a little bit of the leaves. I'm not sure what those are called. Not an expert in tomato parts naming. So here we got, those are the little bit of dark I'm gonna put in there. Go around that. It'll pop it also. It'll pop the tomatoes up if I put a little dark in here. And that's like underneath the bread, and so you can put these little lines. I call these dark highlights when you put a little line on something to pop it forward. It's just, I call them dark highlights because it's like a highlight, but the opposite of white. It's just dark or black because it makes it like a little crevice right here where the cup is in there. So that'll pop it forward, the front of that. Come on, dry, 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 dry. See how much time we got? Oh, we still got plenty. We still got 15 minutes. It'll dry by then. Oh, what did I just do? I just put some green on there. I have to make the background darker? Okay, we'll do that. I think you're right. So that way the thing will pop out. So we're going to go right here and make this darker. And you can put down black in a really dark spot and just put a little color, because as long as you float the black, it will look very transparent, even though it's kind of thick. Like right now that's really dark. But you'll see that what happens is I'll float some other colors in there, and then it suddenly becomes like another, like a transparent, because the color, like red, I just put red in there. So it has a feel like the red is underneath it and it's just floating on top. So I'll make the handle here darker then. I'll just adjust the position of that. And then put this on the background for this side. And then this seems very bright here, so I'm going to shadow that down a little bit. And actually I'm going to leave that alone a little bit because I'm going to show you what you can do with an airbrush. The airbrush, you can just put really tints over things, and I find that to be really cool. And you can also do it with your paintbrush too, but I just want to show you the different ways of doing different things. And the stencil, let me do this part darker also real quickly because I still have time here. Make this a little bit darker. And now, how do I make this part soft edged? A lot of people don't realize that it doesn't. You don't have to wet the whole thing again. You can just take water now. I'll take water and I'll just put it a little bit farther than I think I want it to go, and it'll soften it to that point. You know, just don't press really hard, but you can have that soft edge just floating. And you just take a little bit of water, and depending on what kind of paper, if you're using really cheap paper, yes, it will maybe do a little bit something there. But if you're using a good quality paper, it'll absorb in the water and it'll just get that hard edge, that spot where you wet it. So now that sticks out a little bit. This looks really purple on the monitor, but it's not as purple as you think it is. It's just sometimes the monitors will give it a different look. And okay, let me show you. It's not dry yet. Questions, please give me some questions right now. With your yellow quinacridone gold, it glows. This is my quinacridone gold, but it's this is orange mixed with the quinacridone gold and yellow, like there. And a lot of these are my quinacridone gold. If I mix it a lot with green, so it's really dark over here in my palette right here. It looks really dark, but when you put it down, you can see in my palette, when you put it down in your palette, it becomes a really nice glow, right? It's very deceiving, quinacridone gold, because it looks really dark, like a dark brown almost, but when you put it down, it becomes a gold, and that's kind of fun. All right, let's see. Maybe I can. So the stencil, I'll show you the stencil I'll be using. So here's a stencil I'll be using, and you can get stencils like this at Michael's. You can get them at Hobby Lobby, but the best place to get them is online, and you can get them from places like stencilgirlproducts.com. And I'll put that link in my comments. I totally forgot to do that, but you can get all kinds of different stencils. This one happens to be one I felt would look a little bit like the doily type of look of that, and so I'll be putting that on there, and I'll be rubbing out with a magic eraser. This is a makeshift magic eraser, isn't one from Mr. Clean. They think they put stuff in it. This is just one if you go on Amazon, there's a certain name for this kind of sponge. And I'll maybe put that on the list too, because I got like 20 of them for like really inexpensive. It's just a certain kind of sponge, but there's no additive in this one. But it works great for this type of thing. Now look at there, I got a hard edge. So let me just, you always have to watch your painting. Always watch around, and I'm just going to wet it here. Just wet a little bit farther so I get rid of that hard edge. If it's clean water, it'll make a hard edge, but it'll be disappeared because there's nothing in there that's going to make it hard. All right, so let's boy, it's almost there. It's almost there. All right, another question, guys. Give me some questions. I just have to wait a second here. And it's a good time to toast again because it's so darn hot in here. And thank you for whoever was that had told me to drink out of the glass. It does taste much better. I guarantee you that it does taste better than out of the can. And so far, the difference is that I used a lot more color. If you see, this one's a little bit darker, not as colorful as this one now. So this one's a little bit more colorful. I used a lot more purple in this one that I did this evening. This one I used more, actually no purple, and mostly browns and earth tones. So just, again, you choose what you want in the scene, whatever you feel. Just follow the values. That's the most important. And so let's see. I'm just going to put this over. Let me just fix the airbrush for it, and then by that time it should be dry. So let me show you. So this is the airbrush. I have a couple different kinds of airbrushes. I would recommend, I know I had one I showed you guys before that had wires and hoses, but this is a portable one, and there's a little white button there, and I just press it on, and it's ready to go. And the problem is with this one, it has a plastic top, and I broke 2 of them already in class, and so I just threw them into the case. I thought this was all metal, which this part is metal, but this part up there was a plastic, and it broke right off. So I would watch your handling of these things, because it's just that little part right there, and it just broke off. So anyways, let me show you how to use this. And so I'm going to take a color, dark, probably just whatever's in my palette right at the moment, because I just need a dark color to make the stencils up here. Because if you look, there's some of the doily parts of the curtain is dark against the light, and down here it's the light against the dark. So we're going to juxtaposition that. But when you're doing a stencil, it's hard to put dark into watercolor because you're using water, and you really can't use as much water when you're doing a stencil or rubbing out. When I wet this, I dampen it. I don't even wet it. I just dampen it a little bit. And so for that, I just put it into the water, and I rinse it totally out. I try to get all the water back out so it's just damp. It's just damp sponge. You don't want any water hardly in there. I'll tap it on my towel here, and I'll get this ready with. So what I do is I mix water with the colors, and I'm just going to go across the top back here, and I'm just going to kind of go across the top of the airbrush holder here, this little cup, and I'm just putting water and pigment in there, and it has to be pretty thinned out to make it work. So the water, make it a lot of water. I'm just putting it in there like this. All right, and so that's enough for that. I'll put that on the side here when I get ready for that. But first I'm going to do the, it's dry enough now. So a lot of times you can take the stencil, you can do one part of the stencil and move it around, or if you feel like the whole stencil looks pretty good the way it is, then go ahead and do that. This stencil, I feel it needs to be pushed around a little bit, so I'm going to be doing parts, and then I'll lift it and move it around a little bit, and so that it's not so uniform. You have to just know your stencil and see how you feel. So I'm taking it now, and see, I just put it across it. Make sure your stencil is clean everywhere. And again, you don't want water on your stencil. You don't want to use much water at all. And so what I'm going to do over here, I'm just going to rub out. See how I'm doing? Hardly any rubbing. And it's not wet, it's damp. It's just damp. It doesn't need to be wet. If you make it wet, it's going to go underneath the stencil and ruin everything. So just keep it damp. And I'm just going to go across here. I kind of lifted up first to look and then see how it worked out, and see it was too wet. And so that didn't work out so great. So my stencil, actually the paint was still wet there, so I'm going to dry it again on my paper, on the towel here. And I'm going to do one right here. I'll maybe turn it upside down and do it this way. There we go. I'm just going to push that right there, and then I'm just going to rub it. I mean, you hardly have to rub it at all. I'm telling you, it's just very simple. Just really lightly take and blot downwards. And again, no water on your sponge, just damp sponge. It'll just take it off. Now, it must depend on your paper too, because this paper tends to come off really easily, and so that's great. And so again, I'll look, and how did I get wet again? My paint must be wet. So, but actually, that doesn't look bad. I mean, it's just must be some water on the paper. And now we're gonna go up a little bit higher. Do this side here. Turn upside this way again. Check this time to see if there's water there. Just gonna rub real lightly. Would you ever use masking? Yeah, I use masking fluid too, but this tends to give you a softer edge. Masking fluid, because it's not going to get all the way back down to the white of the paper, and so when you're using masking fluid, you can put it on the color. I guess you can do that too. But I find that this paper, a soft paper, is hard to get the masking fluid off of it. So that's why I'm using a stencil, because it just seems a lot easier. See, I'm just putting it and just rubbing. And I'll go up here a little bit, do a little bit, flip it over again. Rub, rub, rub. Tapping it down. I don't know if you can see this, I'm going to show you closer up. See how it takes it off and gives you a soft edge compared to having it be a hard edge with masking fluid. Because even masking fluid on top of a color, and this all is uniform, is white because it's just taking the color and taking it away. And even whatever you have there, a tint of the white, which whatever here is stained in the purple that's underneath it. But up here now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse this, and now I'm going to do it dark. And so I'll take the airbrush, and again, an airbrush works best for this because if I'm using and dabbing in, it has to be pretty dry, the paint, and you have to dab it with almost pure pigment. And it works, but it's just so much easier just taking an airbrush and just spraying it. So what I'm going to do is just pick it up a little bit, test out the, just making it a little darker. Just go over it real lightly, and just pulling back the handle of the airbrush. I'm going to check it, turn off the airbrush real quick, just check it and see. And so now I got a little bit of dark in there. And you can see that closer to the thing. You see it's like a little bit of a darkness to it. You can also use white or actually scrub that out again too with the airbrush. But it's kind of like it's almost like just a tint of it, you know. It's just, it's not really dark. I'm not putting a lot on. I'm going to spray this part up here. Okay, there, a little bit darker. And so maybe over here a little bit. I'm trying to keep the pattern of whatever I started, and so I'll keep that going. I'll move that a little bit, but that's okay. Now let me show you what you can also do. Let's say you want to have a little bit, like this is all white right here. I'm just going to take and blow a little bit of darkness on top of that, and it'll just give it a really soft, smooth little edge. You know, if you don't want something to be all white, I'm just putting a little tint of it. And instead of putting water, it's very dry. This, and so you can just put you can do like little touches. Like if that's too light, a little bit darker. You know, you can go a little bit more. And so you can just give yourself. And I can also touch up what I had the problem with that edge right there. You can just put a little bit of dark right over that, and it'll touch that up too. See that? Look at that. Because there is water coming out of here, but it's just not a lot, and it's using a lot of pigment. So here I'm just going to go with a little bit of the. Turn it around a little bit, make it go a little bit more like that. Maybe I'll even put a line through here. Alright, so it looks a little bit more like cloth. And maybe a little bit darker down here in this corner. And I think we'll be good. It's a little bit darker. Alright, so that's airbrush, and they call them makeup airbrushes because they use them on for makeup artists. They use it for putting stuff on the face and, you know, makeup on the face and stuff. But that's you can get them on Amazon. I'll put a link onto that too on my Amazon in the comments. So I have to put stencils on the Amazon. I mean, for the comments, I also got to put the airbrush. So look for that. Hopefully coming up. Now I do not like this where it goes right to dark, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that out with the magic eraser, because I noticed that I'd rather have it light right there, and so I can go right over this and just make that light again. And actually kind of go up and it was all wet. That worked. So now it goes to a light. See, it goes right to the dark, and it gradually goes into the light area. Let's do that here too. And then I think we almost have to be done. Yeah, we have 2 minutes left. Again, make sure your stencils are clean. So I'm going to go over that, see if I can't see the look of it. No, that was... What was that one? That was this one, I think, here. Yep, that's that right there. So I'm just going to take that, rub that out real quick, dab it, and there we have it. All right. Thanks, guys, for another Thursday. Let me just take the tape off and see what we can compare. Let me see if there's any more questions. Do you the folds, blend of fabric wood, change shape of stencil, so I like the slightly odd shapes of pattern. Yeah, it's kind of weird because it is like going around, and so what you can do is take the airbrush and also make it look like that part of the thing is getting dark. Maybe more paint in there. Let's put some more paint in there. Because it wouldn't be, the stencil would be rounded and stuff, and so that is a definite thing that you would have to watch out for. Maybe if I put a little light there, it'll look like it's a little bit flatter there. So you can put it in like and get a little folds of the material. But that's an easier way of then actually negative painting it too, because you can also negative paint all that, but it's going to be so hard to get that lace in there. And I know a lot of people do it with their hyper realism, and they actually do that. I don't have that kind of patience, and so this is my way of doing it. All right, so it's just I find I can go back in here, and I probably will get probably negative paint a little bit of this because I feel like this should be a little bit darker right there. But I'll do that because we are out of time. And so thanks again, guys, for dropping by. And also, if you do the painting, please post them on my Facebook group page, where you can everybody's posting their works that they do, paint alongs that they do. And so I'm taking the paint or the tape off from away from it, right? And so we're gonna throw that down there. So that was tonight's, and this was this afternoon. And they're both pretty close. And I do like the background here a little bit better than this. That's the flat. See how I did a flat? I guess I could put a little bit of the waves in there with the airbrush, but so that's it, guys. Post them, please. I've learned so many new techniques tonight. Thank you. No problem. Thanks, Linda. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Brenda. Thanks, all you guys. And keep on painting, guys. And also, again, post them. I love seeing them, and everybody else likes seeing them anyways, too. So you guys did a great job with the lighthouse last week. Let me see what you do with the still life. All right. We'll see you next week. So what do we got here? We got a show. Hecker Shore tonight.